This video was made possible by manscaped.com. More on that in a moment. Elizabeth II had the longest reign in British history. After her passing, Charles III has become monarch, the head of state of the United Kingdom. However, VisualPolitik viewers, this succession is a matter that goes far beyond the British Isles. For Charles III is also the king of 14 other countries spread across the Americas and Oceania, some as important as Canada and Australia. But wait, there's more. Charles is also the new head of the Commonwealth, an umbrella organization of 56 sovereign nations, including countries such as India, Pakistan, Malaysia, Nigeria, and South Africa. That's why on the 9th of September, the whole planet was watching Buckingham Palace. The expectations surrounding the King's speech were enormous.
I too now solemnly pledge myself, throughout the remaining time God grants me, to uphold the constitutional principles at the heart of our nation. And wherever you may live in the United Kingdom, or in the realms and territories across the world, and whatever may be your background or beliefs, I shall endeavor to serve you with loyalty.
In his speech, Charles III took great pains to stress that nothing will change with respect to his mother. However, in the age of social media, his main problem is that he is not his mother. Elizabeth II was a beloved and widely accepted figure, and the new king, what can I say, did not come with those same basic features. So the question is, what can we expect from Charles III of the United Kingdom? How might this change in leadership affect the Commonwealth and thus British influence in general? Might it hasten the conversion to republics of some of the 14 countries outside the United Kingdom over which the British crown reigns? Well, today on VisualPolitik, we're going to answer all of these questions. But first, let me share something with you. By now, you all know about Manscaped, the company thanks to which all of us men have been able to groom down there without causing any injuries. But you don't just have to take care of yourself down there. What about the rest of your body? Today, I want to show you how to bundle with Manscaped to truly get the biggest bang for your buck. This is the perfect starter kit, the Perfect Package 4.0. It comes with everything you need to start managing your body hair, including the Lawnmower 4.0 waterproof trimmer with its skin-safe trimming technology, and groin grooming essentials like ball deodorant and ball toner spray. But when you want to get serious about grooming, then this is for you. Upgrade to the Performance Package 4.0 and you'll get the Weed Whacker nose and ear hair trimmer, plus all your groin grooming solutions. And finally, we get to the jewel in the crown, the Platinum Package. This really is the ultimate bundle with the top 8 grooming essentials, the best-selling products from manscaped.com. 2 trimmers, all your go-to groin grooming tools, your ultra premium shower products, and the new underarm stick deodorant, my favorite new product in the lineup. When you bundle, you get not 1, but 2 free gifts included in your package. The Shed luxury leather travel bag and these super comfy anti-chafing Manscaped boxer briefs. As always, we have a very special discount for all of you who follow us here on VisualPolitik. Simply go to manscaped.com and apply the promo code VPEN at checkout and you'll receive 20% off your order, plus free shipping and 2 free gifts. That's 20% off, free shipping and 2 free gifts with the code VPEN. Thank you, Manscaped.
The Black Spider.
1917. We're in the middle of the First World War. The Gotha bombs London. The Gotha are important because at that time the British Empire was ruled by the House of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. Basically, it was a dynasty more German than Frankfurter sausages. As you can imagine, in the midst of the war with Germany, this was not the least bit amusing to the British. So, King George V, the great-grandfather of Charles III, realised that his own survival and the future of his family as British sovereigns depended on renouncing all of his German titles. And, as we say here on VisualPolitik, no sooner said than done. This is how Leonard Ravenhill, a cartoonist for Punch magazine, expressed it. Thus, a new dynasty was born. The Windsors. Renouncing what they had been and adapting to what was expected of them as monarchs of the empire. This is possibly the best lesson that Charles has been able to draw from in the history of his family. A simple lesson, but complicated to put into practice, as Charles' great uncle demonstrated. Edward VIII renounced the throne to marry Wallis Simpson, at that time an impossible match for a monarch because she was a divorced woman. Meanwhile, Charles had a great master of the royal craft right at home. For 7 decades, Elizabeth II deftly executed the role of queen, expert in the art of talking a lot and never saying anything. Absolutely no one in those 70 years could reproach her for having broken with her duty to remain neutral in the public debate. Not even the Scottish nationalists did when, before the independence referendum held in 2014, Queen Elizabeth recommended people think long and hard about their vote. Charles has been the Prince of Wales for 64 years. Being the eternal heir has meant he has always been under the spotlight. We know practically everything about him, maybe too much. And that's why we're not going to rehash the soap opera we've been watching over and over again for 30 years. Obviously, we are talking about a history that has damaged his public image. But what is truly striking about Charles is his tendency to express his opinions on a wide range of issues. A trend that has even led to the occasional diplomatic incident. Do you want an example? Of course you do. Check this out.
A deliberate snub. Prince Charles will skip banquet with President Xi Jinping. Charles is a supporter of the Dalai Lama, the exiled Tibetan spiritual leader, whom China views as a dangerous separatist.
China has never been viewed favorably by Charles. As recently as August 2022, he said that Beijing must pollute less in order for the fight against climate change to succeed. So we are talking about a sovereign who, as a prince, always had very clear opinions. For example, global warming was always one of the great concerns of the Prince of Wales, but not the only one. He has also been a strong advocate of recycling and for decades has had his own brand of organic food. Yes, the preservation of the ecosystem is a priority for this monarch. And by ecosystem, we mean both the environment and the local traditions and cultures. Because Charles has been daring with everything. He even attacked a project to enlarge the National Gallery because the proposed building was too modern. Check this out.
I would understand better this type of high-tech approach if you demolished the whole of Trafalgar Square and started again, with a single architect responsible for the entire layout. But what is proposed seems to me like a monstrous carbuncle on the face of a much loved and elegant friend.
In the end, this project did not go ahead. But as far as Charles is concerned, it is clear that the role of prince is not exactly the same as that of king. Think about it. Saying that there is something you don't like puts you directly in the sights of those who don't have the same opinion. And for the Windsors, obviously, it is in their interest that all British people recognize them as their kings, as a symbol of the state comparable to the flag and the national anthem. And that's why it could be a problem if this monarch becomes an activist. It was already an issue when Prince Charles was transformed into the Black Spider. The Black Spider memos are a series of letters written anonymously by Prince Charles to be sent to prime ministers and cabinet members. They are named after the scribbles in which the Charles of England tried to emphasize the main issues of concern to him. For example, he lobbied Tony Blair not to ban fox hunting and recommended giving carte blanche to the culling of badgers to combat cattle tuberculosis. He even dared to meddle in the Iraq War and criticize what he saw as the shortcomings of Lynx helicopters. However, the truth is that it does not look like it's going to happen. As Queen Elizabeth grew older and aware that his ascension to the throne was only a matter of time, the eternal heir has been at pains to reassure the British people. He said it himself when he was still the heir. The Black Spider belongs to the past. I guess it's a matter of incentives.
The idea somehow that I'm going to go on exactly the same way if I ever succeed is complete nonsense, because the two situations are completely different.
The fact is that Charles III's time to be king has come at an age when other Brits his age are typically chasing the sun somewhere on the Mediterranean coast. It is common for an heir to generate doubts, even when his role is so limited in practice. Of course, in this case, it's in his favour that he's had so much time to prepare. Now it's his turn to manage his mother's inheritance. And when I say inheritance, I'm talking about an inheritance with a capital I. Check this out.
Elected for one day.
In addition to the crown, Elizabeth II's inheritance left Charles a juicy legacy, the Duchy of Lancaster. We are talking about a portfolio of assets, businesses, land and properties worth about $750 million. However, on becoming monarch, Charles has passed on the Duchy of Cornwall, valued at more than $1 billion, onto his son, William, the new heir to the throne. The British royal family is not exactly short of resources. In fact, what is perhaps most curious is the entrepreneurial profile of its financing. For example, the profits generated by the management of these duchies are used to cover the private expenses of the members of the royal family. In fact, it is basically from this river of cash that Charles has obtained the money with which he has financed all of his charitable works. Hey, not bad at all. Of course, then there is the real jewel in the crown, the so-called Crown Estate, valued at, wait for it, $20 billion. The Crown Estate is the sovereign's public estate, a collection of land and property that includes Ascot Racecourse, a large part of the central London, as well as the seabed of Great Britain. These are theoretically owned by the Crown, but actually administered independently by a corporation managed by the government. Last year, their profits were about $350 million. Well, based on these profits, the sovereignty subsidy is calculated. That is, the money that the country gives the Windsors to cover all their staff costs, travel, and the maintenance of the palaces. To give you an idea, normally the monarch receives 15% of the Crown estate profits from the previous 2 years, and the British government keeps the rest. However, it was agreed that between 2017 and 2027, the royal household would receive 25% in order to refurbish Buckingham Palace. This means that during the biennium 2021-2022, they are receiving about $100 million, amounts that will possibly increase in the coming years because the Crown estate is a real money-making machine. Honestly, you can have no idea how the wind is blowing in the Windsor's favour.
Queen Elizabeth makes millions from UK's offshore wind farms.
So even if the sovereign subsidy is again capped at 15%, offshore leases to erect wind farms is filling the royal treasury at full speed ahead. And then, apart from all these amounts, there are the security expenses of the royal household. They are estimated to be another $100 million and are borne by the Metropolitan Police. However, it seems that Charles III is now going to reduce the number of family members participating in official acts in order to lighten this bill. Be that as it may, what is certain is that this is the least of his worries, because the issue is that his mother's legacy has also one great disadvantage: to be constantly compared to Elizabeth II. And that does not promise to be easy. That Charles does not around the same sympathies as Elizabeth is something that the former queen knew herself perfectly well. And that is why, being aware of this, Elizabeth II went to great lengths to ensure that her son received the highest honour he still holds internationally: to be head of the Commonwealth. Contrary to what many people think, this position does not belong to the monarch of the United Kingdom, but is appointed by the leaders of all the countries that are members of this particular club. In fact, the Queen did not want this question to remain in the air after her death, so back in 2018 she took care to leave everything well organised.
Prince Charles to be the next head of Commonwealth. State leaders honour Queen's wishes and agree Prince of Wales should succeed monarch.
And now I know what many of you are thinking. But let's see, this Commonwealth thing, isn't it sort of like the shadow of an empire? Something the British invented to maintain guardianship over their former colonies? Well, maybe that's what they try to convey from London, but in reality it is an international organisation like any other. In fact, countries that have no historical ties with the United Kingdom, such as Gabon, Mozambique, Rwanda and Togo, are currently members of the Commonwealth. Officially, this organisation pursues two objectives: to strengthen democracy amongst its members and to promote economic development. The problem is that it does not have the clout to achieve the former, nor does it have the money to achieve the latter. Some Brexit advocates try to somehow present the Commonwealth as an alternative to the European Union, but it is clear that we are talking about very different things. In fact, there are even some who doubt the future of this organisation now that the Queen is gone and the United Kingdom does not seem to be enjoying its best days. Avoiding this scenario and strengthening this organisation will be the first challenge facing the new king. At stake is nothing less than the international role of the Windsors and, above all, a good deal of British influence. But this is not the only challenge ahead. A more likely crisis is that some of the 15 countries where the Windsors continue to act as head of state will try to become republics. Which countries are we talking about? Well, let's find out right now.
The age of republics?
Of course, if some of the so-called Commonwealth kingdoms were to become republics, Charles could not be entirely to blame. Elizabeth herself saw 15 countries decide to take this step during her reign. We are talking about countries such as Pakistan, South Africa, Nigeria, Malta, Fiji, Mauritius and Barbados. In fact, the latter, Rihanna's homeland, became a republic last November. And hey, in the interest of normalcy in the process, the ceremony was attended by the then Prince Charles. But of the 15 Commonwealth kingdoms, there is one that has a particular dislike for the new king. Any ideas? Let's find out.
Prince Charles backed controversial sacking of Australian Prime Minister, letter reveals.
This letter came to light in 2020 and refers to one of the darkest episodes in Aussie history, the constitutional crisis of 1975. At that time, the Governor-General of Australia, the representative of the British monarchy, entrusted to exercise the functions of the head of state, dismissed the Labour Prime Minister. The government was experiencing a period of profound weakness, and the Governor-General put an end to it with the stroke of a pen. He appointed the leader of the opposition as Prime Minister and initiated 8 years of coalition government between Liberals and Conservatives. Many felt that the Governor-General had completely overstepped his authority, and this sparked strong Republican sentiment. In 1999, however, they had their chance. The nation held a referendum on becoming a republic, but the attempt failed by 10 points. However, 2 decades later, the publication of this private correspondence suggesting that the British monarchy exerted considerable influence on Australian politics has given renewed arguments to a Republican bloc that has been leading the polls for quite a few years. In fact, by 2021, supporters of the monarchical system had fallen to 28%. However, the Queen's Platinum Jubilee and all the tributes after her death seem to have brought things back into balance. The question is it some sort of champagne effect? Well, there you have another challenge. Be that as it may, right now it seems unlikely that in the short term the Republicans will achieve their goal, since in addition to a majority at a national level, they would also have to achieve a majority of at least 4 of Australia's 6 federal states. Something similar is happening in Canada. If this country wanted to get rid of the monarchy, it would need to obtain the so-called unanimous consent. That is, no less than a majority in the House of Commons, the Senate, and the 10 provincial legislatures. So, it seems more feasible for the British to kick the Windsors out of Buckingham Palace than for Canadians to decide to become a republic. Of course, other countries would have it much easier. In New Zealand, for example, an act of parliament would be enough to eliminate the monarchy, but its Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, has ruled out such a step among her short-term plans. Similarly, many Caribbean countries could also become republics without a referendum. However, in the past, several states have not fulfilled their promises to do so, such as Jamaica. In 2009, St. Vincent and the Grenadines held a Republican referendum that failed just as it had failed a year earlier in Barbados. Of course, in the latter case, Barbados ultimately opted to become a republic through a constitutional amendment approved by a 2/3 majority of its parliament. And I'm sure a few of you were wondering, what about the UK? Are there no Republicans there? Well, the truth is that so far, support for the parliamentary monarchy remains a solid 3-1. Likewise, the figure of the monarch is the most respected institution in the United Kingdom, because as we already know, if there is one thing that disappoints the British people, it is their politicians. And besides, let's not forget that even with all its limitations, the royal house is still a powerful mechanism of international influence. After all, sharing the head of state with Australia, Canada, and New Zealand is not bad for keeping political, social, cultural, and economic ties alive. In fact, after Brexit, this may become the biggest role of the royal house, and at the moment, being head of the Commonwealth is no small thing either. So at the end of the day, the government is right to protect the monarchy. In fact, former Prime Minister Liz Truss didn't take a minute to prevent any temptation from Charles III to become the Black Spider again.
King Charles will not attend climate summit on Truss advice.
Too bad this Prime Minister wasn't too diligent about her own affairs, but we've already told you all about that here on VisualPolitik before. So now the question is over to all of you. Do you think that Charles III will be a good king? Do you think that many Commonwealth kingdoms will try to become republics in the absence of such an iconic figure as Elizabeth II? What role will the new monarch have in the UK's post-Brexit international politics? You can leave me your answer in the comments below. As always, if you found this video interesting, please like it and subscribe to us, all of us here at VisualPolitik. All the best, and I'll see you next time.